Hey guys, Cravone here, and welcome to another RS3 guide. Today is going to be a soloing guide for Vindicta. I'll also go over the basics for if anyone's new to Vindicta, never been before, and wants to know basically the mechanics that might happen when they go grouping. But the main focus is going to be for soloing. So this is going to be a more in-depth guide on soloing than I've done in the past. So, first of all, Vindicta is in GWD2, requires 80 attack plus, and is the Zaros boss, so you have to get Zaros kill count. I should say before I continue the video that I'm doing this without any retakes, without a script, so bear with me. Okay, so first up, the gear setup that I use. Now, the gear, like the actual gear itself, can be interchanged with several other things, but I'll go over sort of the basics of my setup. So first of all, I'm using a Noxious Staff. Now, obviously, Noxious Staff isn't the cheapest weapon by a long shot, neither is anything magic. But I would say you definitely want to have a tier 90 accuracy weapon. So this could be any of the. This could be the blades from Furies as well, or the one from Malware. Basically, you want to be able to have the accuracy to hit this boss, which basically requires tier 90 accuracy. So, I would not recommend ranged on this boss, simply because there's a heck of a lot of melee damage going out. But I'd say melee is definitely viable. You might want to look at having a weapon with long reach like a halberd. The two that spring to mind are the Noxious Scythe and the Dragon Rider Lance. Those are probably the best for melee if you go as melee. However, I'm going to be maging in this, so I'm using a Noxious Staff. As for cape, I'm using the Killing Cape. Honestly, like, the cape doesn't make all that much difference. Just wear your best magic cape. I'm using a Bluff Fury necklace. Again, the necklace doesn't matter too much. Just use something you're comfortable bossing with. You can use Amulet of Souls and things like that. For my ring, I'm using the Silent Surgeon ring. Again, that's an item that's very interchangeable with other things. My pocket item, I'm using a Sign of Life simply because I have nothing better. I'm not willing to use Scrimshaws, but Scrimshaws are definitely an option here. Also, I do not have the Book of Death yet, though I probably wouldn't use it on the boss. In terms of auras, now there's two routes you could really go down here. I prefer to have Vampirism or just the extra healing. But it's entirely possible to take a Penance Aura, and like, it'll be much easier to sustain tier 95 prayers. I should note that this guide is not going to mandatorise the use of curses. You're mostly going to be protect from melee, or protect from range. So, now the rest of my gear, I've intentionally left this all to last. So the head, body, legs, boots and hands. Now you're going to want most of those to be tier 80 plus. Now, a lot of people say you can do GWD2 with subjugation armor, and while you can, well, tier 70s, and while you can, you're not going to be able to stay it that long because you're going to be taking a lot more damage. And the whole thing with 280 armor is that he's got more armor, and that's going to make the big difference here. I'm using boots of subjugation because the boots are so expensive. as for my inventory setup, I'm taking overloads now. I will say this, overloads are pretty much a necessity when you're trying to solo GWD2. I would be willing to go as far to say don't even try without. So obviously because I'm maging, I need to remember my runes. The amount of times I've forgotten runes here. So just remember your runes. You can use blood spells if you want, but I'm saving money by using fire spells. So you're also going to want some prayer renewals. Now it's up to you what you use. You could use holy overloads, but I do not have holy overloads yet. I can make them, but I've not made them yet. I'm waiting for double XP. So yeah, you're going to want something that actually restores your prayer. Now penance could probably do it on its own, but you might want a bit extra if you're using tier 95's prayers. And the rest of it is sharks. I've also got a beast of burden full of sharks. These are more precautions, and if you're not healing enough to sustain yourself, then the sharks are going to come into play, which in Vindicta can happen a lot more than at Hellway, for instance. If 2 inventories of sharks is not enough, consider getting Sour Brews, because those are going to sustain your adrenaline whilst you're in the fight, and they've got potential 6k healing in one Sour Brew. Well, obviously they're only at 1000 at a time. So that's my setup. The levels I'd recommend well, as high as possible in your style, but I would say you don't want to be having less than 85 in your preferred attack style to solo these. Your defense level is going to matter a lot, so will your health level. Your prayer level, your prayer level could matter. It depends on what prayers and curses you're using. But as I say, tier 95 curses are not 100% needed here. They're not mandatory. Although having said that, obviously you'll get much quicker kills if you use tier 95 prayers. And I'm also going to show a trick during the kill where you're going to soul split. You're going to flick soul split. That won't work for melee. That'll only work for mage. I'll just say that now. I'll mention it again when we get to that. But yeah, you're not going to be using soul split for much of this fight anyway. So don't fret if you don't have curses. You can do this without curses. I sort of feel soul split can be a bit overrated sometimes. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, I'm just saying it's not always the perfect thing to use. Also, I'm making this video literally like 3 days before the new Next releases, and obviously there's curses in there, overhead curses. I'm not going to mention those because I don't know how efficient those are. So if you're watching this after Next comes out and you've got curses and you've tried this at Vindicta, let me know how well it goes. I'm willing to bet it probably won't go too well because you're going to need protect from melee for quite a lot of it. Now, before we do this, I'm going to mention a few abilities whilst I forget the most crucial item in my setup. So, I forgot to mention in the inventory, because I forgot this myself, you need to have a shield in your inventory to solo Vindicta, or at least to stay there for a long time soloing. That's mandatory. You have to have a shield. There's no ifs or buts about it, and I will explain why now. So let me show you my middle bar. So on my middle bar I have switched to shield. Now I've got resonance. Resonance is going to be your best friend in this fight, because there's an ability used in phase 2 which is going to heal you for about 3k, maybe more. It's going to be less if you're melee, better than mine because combat triangle and everything. So, but you're definitely going to be wanting to have resonance on your bar. The next one that's going to be important is going to be devotion, which will make your prayers block all of the damage as long as you're praying against the right type of damage. So let's say you activate devotion and melee. All melee attacks from the boss will be completely blocked. I'm sorry if people already know this, but some people don't actually know this. If you don't have devotion, you can get it from God War Dungeon 1 Armadillo and Bandos minions. The kill count minions. So those two are basically essential for this. Now there are some other abilities which you might want to use, and those are going to be debilitate, which is going to reduce the amount of damage that the boss will do. And this is going to be important because sometimes the timing doesn't match up on cooldowns in the second phase. Anticipation also does that for you as well because it reduces the damage you take. So having both of those on is going to mitigate quite a lot of damage. It's not always necessary. Sometimes the timing on resonance is perfect, sometimes it isn't. So on screen I've shown the route here, and you're going to be killing sort of these Zaros guys. Well, these are Zami, but these Zaros guys you're going to want to kill. I've already got kill counts, so I'm just going to go through them. So I'm going to commentate sort of through several fights. Now, first of all, I'm going to talk about the first phase. Now, the first phase, there's not really much that you have to watch out for. You're probably going to want to have Protect from melee. It's possible to use Soul Split here if you have that, and if you're doing enough damage. I'm going to be doing these kills without using Soul Split and without Tier 95 prayers. So, obviously protecting from melee is going to help a lot because he's using melee. Now, after a while, the dragon will come down and breathe a line of fire there. You want to step out of that as soon as possible and not mess up your movement like I did. That can be disastrous. So that's basically the main thing to worry about. You also want to keep an eye on the amount of times he's attacking. Every third attack, I believe, he's going to do a spin attack, and that can do quite a bit of damage. Sometimes you might want to run from that. Although he attacks, well, she attacks incredibly slowly. This is actually a female boss, by the way. So, at half health, phase 2 starts, and she's going to start by summoning the dragon. Now, it's going to take me some time to explain this attack pattern. So, when she's on the dragon, she's going to do 3 attacks, and then she's going to teleport like that. Now, the first attack is going to be a melee hit, and then the second attack is going to be a ranged hit, and then the third is going to be another melee attack. Now, the ranged hit will hit incredibly hard, like ridiculously hard. So, obviously that's the ideal thing to resonance. So, you're going to want to resonance some of those. However, you're not going to be able to resonance every single one. Now, this boss goes through some patterns in the second phase. The first of, well, think of it as there's a pattern of 3 cycles. I just got hit. There's a pattern of 3 cycles, and the first cycle, the range attack isn't going to hit hard. The second the second cycle it will do. And the third cycle it will do as well. But then the fourth cycle, because it's cycled around again, won't hit that hard. So the first, fourth and seventh, if you manage to go that far, those are not going to be the ones that you want to resonance, because those won't heal you as much. And I'm making a mess of this resonance right now. So you're going to want to resonance the second one, the second ranged hit. Then you're going to want to resonance the fifth one, and then the eighth one, etc. Now, how you deal with the third one is going to be devotion, and you're going to have to prayer switch for this. So you're going to have to prayer switch for each attack in the second phase. But the secret to enduring this boss is getting the resonance right, because that's potentially a 3.5k hit. Now, a good trick to use when you're resonancing is make sure you're not praying against that. So if you're going to resonance, don't switch to praying against range. Hit that resonance and keep praying melee, because he's going to use melee next. She's going to use melee next. Now I'm going to show you a trick you can do with Soul Split, and then I'm going to stop commentating for a few kills, just to sort of show you how I do things. Now there is a trick in the second phase with Soul Split, and you can flick Soul Split after the third attack and between the third attack and then the next first attack, because that's time when she was not going to be hitting you. So I'm going to be hit by another flame, yep. So that's one hit, so the next one's ranged. Now if you're grouping, the ranged hit can hit anyone in the room, which makes this boss quite random, and it actually makes soloing easier for the tank. Also, if you're grouping, make sure, if you're grouping, make sure if you're tanking, you're the closest to the boss at all times, because she can and will go for the closest target. So as you can see, that one only hit me for 800, because that's the weak attack. That's the third of this cycle. Now I'm resonancing the ranged hit. Even though I could probably kill her there, I'd rather take the heal before I finish the kill. Now the problem with this strategy is that devotion will be on cooldown at some point, and these last two times devotion has been on cooldown, which can make it more difficult. You could try altering which order you do resonance and which order you do devotion, but you're going to be wanting to use resonance as often as possible, even above devotion, because that heal is going to be more important than not taking the damage. Because that's a big heal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop commentating, and I'm going to sort of show a few of my kills with me concentrating. I'm also gonna quickly mention something that I don't think I covered, and it's basically on the cycle where you're not devotioning or resonancing. That's when you use Debilitate and Anticipation, because that will reduce the damage even further than it already is. I mean, I sort of, when I do this as like a solo, I usually have a few bad attempts, and then I sort of get used to the swing of the fight, and then I start using less food. So I'm using Devotion early here for the reason that I'm full health, and there would virtually be no point in using Resonance so early. Okay, so I think I've shown enough of this boss. If you have any questions or you think I've missed anything to explain with this, let me know in the comments. Also, if you want to leave any kind of comment on this video, feel free to. But for now, I'm gonna say thanks for watching, and I hope this helped people, particularly those in my clan who have been asking me how to solo Vindicta. Shout out to Shroom. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys later when I'm not taking damage.